You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
Are you using your words to create a personal heaven or a personal hell? This week on Carlie's Couch, we are discussing the first of Don Miguel Ruiz's The 4 Agreements. Be impeccable with your word.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a good start to your week.
I got Lextopia on my left.
And Carlie to my right. How you doing, Carlie?
Oh, I feel good. I'm excited. We like in the swing of summer things. I feel like energy's up and been outside. How you doing?
Yeah, it is super nice that it's light from like 5 to 9-ish. Like,
sheesh.
Meanwhile, it does make me kind of feel kind of bummish when it's like, all right, it's still light outside. I'm like, I don't have nothing else to be doing.
I feel like daylight is longer this year. Am I tripping? But has it always been this light until like 9?
Well, yeah, until that late. But I feel like I shouldn't be cracking my eyes at 5 and it's already light outside. It's kind of weird.
I literally
was like,
woke.
whoa.
No, I rolled over because we were starting summer camp. So I rolled over and I looked at how bright. I was like,
late.
shit, I'm late. God,
Yeah.
I was like, Charlie's gonna kill me. And then I looked at my thing. I was like, it is 6:12 a.m.
Exactly. But everything is going pretty good. The energy is a little different for the summertime, and I maybe it is because of the light. I don't know. Like, we always talk about that, but I don't know if I would say it's directly that. And yet I feel that I've been getting a lot more kind of done, and you just have more energy to do things. So the way I kind of been looking at it the last couple of years is I just go a little harder when I can go a little harder, and then when it's hibernation time, then it's like, well, we chilling. So
we got seasons
it is
like,
what it is.
We got seasons like the world. So we're going to start with this week's question from the couch. What is one feeling that you wish you could experience for the first time again?
Aw. Not somebody said hitting a home run in baseball, so wholesome.
And then dunking was right after that.
That's real. Nah,
Yeah,
dunking in front of the hose, yeah.
That would be
That
real
probably
cool.
is. That probably is a good one.
Dunking on somebody probably feels really cool,
that
too.
does. Wow.
It does?
Yeah, it does.
I ain't never dunked on nobody, so.
No, I mean, it does sound like
yeah.
it would be cool, because I ain't never did that either.
That's why I was like,
But no, that I can imagine. Anything with like sports on somebody, like, and everybody watching.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like a pick.
I can feel
like
it
a pick
actually
six,
right now.
That shit would be crazy anyways.
Aw. Somebody said the feeling I got when my daughter recognized my voice for the first time. That's so sweet.
That is sweet. And then people back in their college days, college parties.
That's real though.
And then living so close. And then living so close to friends.
It's nothing.
Like
nah,
that.
it was it was something to college parties where it's like, he was just free. He was just
Man, they had
having
jean stains on
fun.
the walls.
Yeah, it just nothing mattered. It was fun. Also, next one, somebody said field trip days. That was a win too. Wow, these are good ones.
And playing outside when you're younger.
Yeah.
That was nothing like it.
Yeah, somebody in mine said waking up with no responsibilities when everything's taken care of. I don't think I did it right the first time, which is kind of similar to like those last couple things, I guess. Not everybody wants to go back to basically just not having adult responsibilities is what it looks like.
And then the last one, y'all, some real lover boys, lover girls out here, lover people falling deep in love.
And that's a lot because I don't even know if that's...
I don't know. Being in love does feel great.
Sure. But I don't know how it felt like the first time. I don't know. I don't think the feeling is the same. I feel like there's probably a feeling I haven't actually really felt. That's really what that could be, if that makes sense.
I was about to say one that I think is cool. Well, I don't know. It's like also the first time. Anyways, that'll be another episode. So about these 4 agreements, Lexi, what's good?
Oh, brother. So, I don't think it was necessarily on purpose. Like we was trying to go through the 4 agreements, but we did talk about not taking things personally in episode 105, which is one of the 4 agreements as well. And this one that we're going to talk about today, Be Impeccable With Your Word, is the first one in his book. And in the book, he says it's the first one because it's the hardest one and it's also the most foundational one. So he's like, if you do anything, like focus on any one of the rules, this is the one that will drastically change your life or change things. And I agree. And that's why I'm kind of excited to talk about this one. This is the one that to me stands out the most also, I guess, as the most challenging and as like it really is the most like has the most creative energy in it as well.
It does, and transformative, which makes sense that it would be the first one because it is foundational. But I really like his words. He said, like, with this with just this first agreement, you will be able to transcend to the level of existence I call heaven on earth.
Because essentially, it feels as though he's in the in that area and in that space of like you create your world and to think of yourself as a creator, and that the things you say and do and all of that can make things awesome or not awesome. And so, of course, if you focus on your word, which we've talked about often, that, you know, sometimes we just fall into automatic and or, you know, there's things that we might say or think, of course, that we don't think about we're saying it, or like don't pause to be like, dang, what am I really saying? And so I think it's a good practice. This is a good, very, very short chapter in that book to read that will inform you on just this simple practice. It's not simple, easy, but simple practice that can make a big change.
And so I think whenever I first hear like be impeccable with your word, to me, my first thought, even when I was like first reading the book, so taking it back to the first time I read it, it was like, oh, you know, being honest, like being impeccable, like making sure that like my words and my actions are in alignment, that I'm being honest with people, and like what I say, like I'm being intentional with what I say. That's like my first thought. And
I'm glad you said that, because I remember if I would hear about this, that's what I would kind of think too, that it's saying like be honest and the like. But what I really like about it is what he's really saying, and I love looking into like the words and stuff, to be impeccable. Impeccable means without sin. And so what he's really saying here is that being impeccable with your word means you don't go against yourself with your word. The things that you are saying are for you and not against you. And keep in mind that the things that we say that are negative, even if it's for somebody else, if I'm like, this person, you're a loser, that's also against me, because you're creating a weird vibe with that person and all of those things, right? So whatever you say, just thinking about this as what you're saying being real, thinking about your word as having that much power, and paying attention to where I don't say anything that goes against what I am or who I want to be.
Yeah, and I love the focus on self, like I said, because I always, when I first hear it or first heard it, I always think externally. So it just is like talking about other people, but it's also like, so not only like negative talk to others, so, you know, you're terrible at that, or you shouldn't be doing this, or you're a loser, whatever, but also to myself. And I'm like, oh, wow, like that's the zinger for me, because I will talk much more crazy to myself than most people, like in my head.
Yeah, so you're not using your word impeccably if you are engaging in negative self-talk. That one's probably an obvious one after what we were just saying. But also the negative talk directed at others. Like, for example, if you're telling somebody, like, girl, you can't sing. Or I know an example he uses is like a frustrated parent. And like I do this with a dog that I'm babysitting. Like, or he'd be like, just go over there. Like, no, don't nobody want to see you right now. And, you know, things that we say sometimes when we're just agitated or whatever. And yet, imagine how for a kid, and a lot of times for adults too, but like for a kid, like I remember something that my mom said to me one time in agitation, and and it's crazy because you'll never forget that stuff. And imagine how that could shape you. And it happens, but that's, I guess, an example of like why it's so important what you say to other people, especially young impressionable minds, because they take that as a truth. And one of the things, like he calls the book the 4 agreements, but also throughout the book, he is talking about the things that we believe is an agreement with yourself. So like if I tell this kid like, ugh, you can't sing, like be quiet, you know, just because I'm trying to work on something or whatever, that kid, it's like they can make an agreement with themselves that, oh, I can't sing. Like they're taking that and making that agreement. And so every day, like we're forming these opinions and bonds and beliefs that are all rooted in things that were said out loud in some kind of way.
It also makes me think about the Bible in the sense of they're saying like the power of life and death is in the tongue. And so all the things you're saying are essentially creating your world around you for good or for bad. And so just being so intentional with your words to make sure what you're saying is good, what you're saying is true, what you're saying is honest, first and foremost with yourself and also with others.
I liked how he also mentioned gossip, which I think gossip is so big. Like I actually, in my habit tracker, of things that like I'm tracking things I do or don't do every day, I added no gossip. It says no gossip / no shit talk as a thing. And so it sends me a reminder in the morning and the evening. And if I do engage in it, then I have to click like, dang, I did it. But the goal is like no more than twice a week or something.
No, go ahead.
But I was going to say it, and that might seem like, dang, you be gossiping. And it's like, what happened was I kind of realized, like, I'm not a gossiper type person. Like, I don't even like that kind of content, or, you know, I'm not that person who's like sitting around like, what did you hear about Cardi B? Like, stuff like that, right? But one thing I did notice is that when I'm hanging out with my friends and stuff, how easy, and also not super negative things, but how easy it is to be like, yeah, you know, Dama gonna make an excuse because he got them kids. He ain't coming to the da-da-da. Like, there's little things that we can find ourselves saying about people, or saying, you know, talking, and not meaning it necessarily mean. And sometimes you do. It wouldn't be that example, but with certain friends that we all know, we know each other, and I recognize that, and I was like, you know what? Every once in a while, like, it's like we are having a conversation about somebody who's not here, or about something. It's like we don't even need to be having that conversation. And it's just not necessarily positive, or putting life to anything. And so that's something that I added to my habit tracker, not because it's like, oh, I talk junk every day, but it's something I wanted to pay more attention to if/when I do that. Because, and like he says in the book too, humans very much use gossip as a bonding, you know, between us. Yep. So, like, yeah, if I'm with Carlie, like, maybe we start talking about somebody or something, right? And I also notice that the times that I might be with somebody and we end up maybe talking about somebody, or somebody comes up, I'm like, oh, this person is down bad right now anyway. So it's like, are we just being in a down bad thing, or is talking kind of about somebody, again, not like you're trying to be malicious, but like when something comes up about somebody you're talking about or making fun of something, is that our way of we're trying to feel really better? And so, like, that's also not a good sign either. It's like, if you're gossiping a lot, you're probably not in a good space. So it's just something I think that's really important to pay attention to, because we use it as a bonding, and it's not a good bonding tool. And it's not a good use of your word.
And also, it's not good in building relationships, because if all your relationship is with another person is y'all talking about other people, then that's not a real relationship. I actually remember we
have something like that, though. Everybody has those.
Well,
or it's like there's certain topics that come up with certain people all the time.
For sure. And so I'm in business school. There was this girl, and she would gossip a lot. And I was telling her, like, hey, I don't actually like that. And she was like, it's a cultural thing. Like, what do you mean you're Filipina? It's something that we do, and this and this and this. And so, like, it was a big divide, because I was like, I mean, that's cool, but that's just not me, dog. So you can talk about other people.
What was the vibe of the gossip, though?
Anything. Just talking about people, like, on their testings, or who they were marrying, who they were fucking, or like, oh, did you see so-and-so? This, it was just gossiping a lot, but it was trying to form a connection. But like, to you said, like, a lot of people see it as a cultural thing. Like, chisme, like, you know, like, whatever, we're talking about this and doing this and it's jokes. But I do think that if we are being impeccable with our word, and we're so intentional about the power behind words, then we are watching that. And, like, why not be using this time to do something else? Like, because if you're not 100%. Building, you're destroying. And so, like, I have a big stance on that. I don't like that. And if you telling me, I know, like, if you telling me stuff about other people to me, you definitely talking about me to somebody else, and I don't enjoy.
And that was one of the things that kind of sparked me thinking about it, or noticing it too, is because I'm like, somebody else telling me about something that I said to some other person. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like now I can't really talk to this person as much anymore. And I noticed that would happen. But that also, I feel like I try to do a good job of, like, also looking at myself. So I was like, let me look at myself. Like, when is times that I say, you know, stuff that's like, you know, it ain't quite a matter, because they're not here either. And so focusing on, you know, how we talk about other people and gossip, like, really, really a big thing to minimize.
Another one is dishonesty. I think that as easily as we can talk about other people, it is to lie about stuff. Like, hey, I can't make it tonight. I have a big project for work. You don't really have a big project for work. You just don't want to go. Insert lie here. Or somebody sends you their mixtape and you didn't think it was that great. And you're like, oh man, that was fire, just because it's your friend and you don't want to do that. Thank God most of my friends who make music are really great, so I don't have to do that. But yeah, I think that the big thing is not just like lying just to lie, but also even in like people pleasing, like lying to make someone feel better, or minimizing your truth to make someone else feel okay.
And there's ways you can be honest about things without being negative at all, or being mean about it. I can't think of which book it is. I know it was some book. He's talking about in relationships and stuff, I believe. Like, if your partner is like, oh, do you like this dress type vibes? And it's like, it's not about saying like you don't like the dress, but there's something else you say, right? Or that, I think that what their point was, that there's a time for when they need that real whatever, right? And at that time, ain't it? But also you don't have to lie. So I think I forgot how he responded, but it was around something else around, you know, the whole look, or I'm just so excited for us to go to dinner, girl, like, you know, or whatever. But yeah, it's also very empowering what Carlie just said. Because I've taken steps to be very conscious about that too. Like when people ask me about something, and or when it's like me, the one who needs to tell somebody like I didn't finish a thing, you know, because you could be like, yeah, this thing happened, or I just got out and it's so weird how like our first instinct be like, I was just in this 3-hour meeting, I'm sorry, I'll get to it. And it's like, you don't even need to say that. It's like, and also you don't need to say you slept all morning either, but hey, I'm behind, a little behind with this, I'll get it to you soon. Like there is an empowerment to telling the truth, and or maybe in this case what I'm saying is to not try to fluff it out or like make up something around it when you're engaging with people.
I think it's super important. Something that we practice for our Change the Tune team is radical candor. And so like, you know, hey, someone gives a presentation, we do glows and grows, but then also if you're giving, you suck. No, we're giving feedback and it's like, hey, I have some constructive feedback. Are you in a space to hear that right now? And they're like, actually, you know, no, I'm good, whatever. But then you make the space and then you actually like tell them like, hey, I thought that these things were great. Not necessarily the shit sandwich, but also like thinking about what you did enjoy about something and then how you can tell somebody something truthfully without being mean, without being derogatory, without, you know, just presenting your truth and giving them space to then present their truth back to you. But approaching those, and I feel like whenever you create a brave space, which is something else we practice, not just safe, but brave, like you have agreements, like we're not going to demean people here. We're always open-minded. We listen to ideas, etc., and we agree with them. And once you have this rubric in relationships and friendships and business, then you're able to then approach things.
Yes. And I believe you build up a relationship with somebody to be able to do that. Because also, like, if I don't know you and you just like, can I be candid? Like, I promise you, I don't care what you got to say right now. Like, it's you know, it's also different, like your relationships, you know, when it's actually a friend or a professional who's in the spot, you know what I mean? So also think about that too. Like everybody don't need your advice if they didn't ask for it.
Especially if they didn't ask for it.
Yeah, and if you offering it, it's like, it might be like, okay, cool, but let me, you know, I don't know, maybe it would depend on how I'm feeling if I want to hear that or not. Ever since I read Conversations with God, which is 3 parts that they have? Three part book is so good though. But I feel that when I go back to things like the 4 agreements and some of these other texts that are like, you know, those umphy texts, the alchemist and all that stuff, right? I love how I'm like, man, it's like everybody's kind of saying some of the same things, you know? And I like seeing that because to me, that's where it's like, oh, things that are truth, or like these are the things that are coming out of it. And one thing I thought that was interesting about the way he speaks and writes in this book, The 4 Agreements, is talking about being impeccable with your word, and to think of words as like it's like black magic, or it's like casting a spell, or like it's how powerful it is. And the idea that of course you would be so mindful of the words you use, because like really imagine believing like everything I say is what's real, and how much that could change your life in that way. And so it's so important to understand and think about like these things that we say and believe, they're agreements with ourselves, and that of course you would want to make that worthwhile for yourself. So you want to say those good things. You want to remind yourself of how great you are. And this is not just about being like, we've talked about toxic positivity, but those things are true too. We just tend to focus so often on, you know, the things we got to work on or trying to do or whatever, or I want to make money or da-da-da. But like, I always make money. That things have changed so much since I say that all the time, because I'm like, damn, that's super facts. Like, if you say something and you don't really believe it, doesn't matter. But like, I really be like, yeah, I can make money up here anywhere, and do somehow, and have for 13 years. And also I'd be like, damn, so I want to work on it every day. But, you know, what are those things that we're saying to ourselves and saying every day, and how is that really shaping us? Like, I think that's so cool.
Thoughts become things, and those things that we think every day, those things that we say, are creating the story of our life. And it might be like, nah, that stuff is corny. It's on a, you know, little poster that's in the dentist's office or at a high school or whatever, but it is so true. And so it's like really evaluating all of those things you say about yourself, like even without thinking about it, like if it ain't one thing, it's the other, you know, and you all, you know, even that's very unconscious, but you're creating that story, and then it's always something for you. And so it's like, how can we be so intentional to speak love and speak the good things and speak the things that we want to see until we see them in the physical reality.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that, it's so funny because I immediately think about, I have one friend that I know, and I feel like everybody probably has certain people in their life where they're like, I wish you could realize how negative you come across very often. And about them, not even like, it's not direct, but it's just like they give the vibe like, well, I couldn't do that. Or like, wow, like you really did that. And it's like, we're talking about basic stuff. Like, and you want them to be like, you can too. And, like, stop saying things that way. Like, ugh. And I'll try to call it out sometimes, like, say, what about this or that? But also, it's just so funny how many people, I don't know, they're really not positive. And or I don't know, maybe they really do think a certain way about themselves, so that things are not limitless and all that, right? Which I get it. There's that level of like, all right, like, real life and how we're talking, and yet you don't have to be delusional. And we talked about that a couple episodes ago. Like, it's not being delusional to like recognize like basic life stuff, I guess.
And it's always the stuff we're emphasizing. So shout out to my mom. That's one thing I always appreciate. She was always open to trying things in new ways and learning. And she read, Neville, and I sent her Conversations with God. And, she was always trying to open her mind, but it really was like changing. Like, oh, I always got to do this thing. Oh, it's always this. Something is always happening to me. And I'd be like, why are you focused on that? She would get so mad. This is my reality, Carlie. Carlie, this is what's happening to me right now, Carlie Ruth. And I'd be like,
because she's not wrong
and
either.
I was like, yes, and you can also focus on a different part of your day. Like, yes, the bills suck, and you can focus on this thing and try to change your language.
Be like me, and I open them. Throw them hoes in the trash.
Listen to the words that you saying. But then, she started practicing that, and things did start changing. But it really is tough. And so it's like, we say these things and we recognize that it can be very difficult, but just the power that you have in the words that you're writing for your life. And I love that. It's like when you think about your words, you never want to say anything, and they emphasize in the book, that would betray yourself. So you never want to betray yourself or the creation of your story. And when you are speaking so negatively about yourself, about the limitations, about how life doesn't favor you and everybody's always against you, what kind of story are you creating? You're literally like writing a movie or a book. Like, why would you write all that stuff against the main character? They can't win whenever that's their life. And that's literally what we're doing every single day with our words.
What you said about like your mom being like, well, this is the situation of, I do have bills and things like that. One thing it makes me think as well is that being impeccable with your word, maybe going into it, I'm not going into being impeccable with my word to change a situation. I'm being impeccable with my word to change me and to change how I feel in this moment. Because, yes, I don't even know what my bills are. I know I owe a lot of stuff to a lot of places. I don't know what they are. And not to say being irresponsible either, but that's where the yes and that Carlie was saying, I think, comes into, is because it's always like, yeah, la, 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 it's going on. And, like, the little cartoon I saw yesterday on Twitter where it was like, why are people never happy? And it's because they're always looking for happiness in the future. So if it's never right now, if there's never anything right now that's good or cool or whatever, to be impeccable with my word is just like acknowledgement of I'm here and I'm good and all of those things. And so it's for how you feel. It's so you feel good. Like, why in the moment, yes, the bills might not change because I said like I can make money, and yet I can feel better right now. I can be less stressed. I can feel happier, and those things help me be a better equipped person for something else.
Ta-da!
And so it's like, why be miserable? And it's still going to be there. I mean, and it might not eventually, but, it's going to be there. So you could be miserable, or you could still, like, enjoy what we can enjoy.
And that's your choice. It's literally the little train meme. Him looking out one way at the wall, looking sad. Him looking outside, seeing whatever. It's literally that. And so there's signs that you are not using your word impeccably. If you feel a lot of guilt, an immense amount of sadness, shame, anger, fear, if those are the things that you feel all the time, it's because you're not using your word, and you're, to me, like kind of betraying yourself with the story or making things harder than they need to be. For example, like, you can take responsibility for a thing. Like if you mess up on a thing, if you didn't show up, if you didn't get something done and you said you would, but you don't have to punish yourself for it. You don't have to be like, I'm a terrible person and internalize that, oh man, I fucked up. Now I'm fucked up and and I'm just like worthless and I'm all this. And it could be like, man, no, I just messed up. Next time I can do better. I'm going to choose to show up better tomorrow and I'm going to set myself up for success. And it's playing that game of like, it's not playing the game. Let me not say that. It's just recognizing that, yes, I can own responsibility without like feeling really bad about myself or making myself feel bad.
Mm-hmm. But I want to challenge something you said / maybe ask for clarity around it. Is that also, I'm not sure if it's good to be like, well, if you feel bad or if things are going wrong, you're not being impeccable with your word. Is that exactly a...
So that was an example that they used in the book, that if you're feeling all the time more guilt, more sadness, more anger, more fear in situations, then you are not being impeccable with your word. Mm-hmm. And what that could be an example of is I missed my friend's birthday because she was doing something and then I forgot about it. And so, man, I can feel really like sad. I can tell myself, oh, you're just not a good friend. You're not showing up. You're not... How dare you be so forgetful about that when she forgets?
Yeah, exactly. The wrong way and
so I'm not being impeccable with my word because I am like betraying myself and telling myself all these really terrible things about myself, and this must be true because I messed up and did this. Whereas like, no, things got busy. It's your friend. She'll still love you. You can tell her happy birthday now. She's not dead. Thank God. Like, you know, and looking at it, or like, you could not be good with money and feel really bad about you being in over your head this month, and it becomes an indictment on who you are as a person versus like, there's this external situation outside of me that's not going the way I want it to be. That doesn't mean I'm a terrible person.
Okay. So that makes sense to me, is that essentially you're saying, because what we said earlier is like, you can always tell yourself a narrative, but you know you're probably not telling yourself the right one if you feel some kind of way about stuff. That's actually, and I get that does make sense. So thank you for fleshing that out for me. And then even the last couple of days, like we had a client meeting, and I was like, oh, we were not feeling prepared for it. Because it's like, oh, we got so much stuff we still got to do. And it's a new client, right? So it's like, you know, trying to figure things out and what works for them and all this and that. And, you know, we really had to stop and be like, all right, but we are doing this, we did that, because it's like, man, do we have anything to show? Like, feel like we didn't do anything. And it is all about reframing. And even what I said before, it's like, oh no, I'm proud of the work that we do, and like, what did we do, what are we doing? You have to reframe that narrative. And then I felt better. Like, I didn't feel stressed. I felt going into the meeting like, oh, we did all these things, instead of like, well, we hadn't did this and we're still figuring this out, which we were, but the narrative does make a difference. So that is interesting.
And just adding on to that, it's always your choice how you choose to see and process things. We're not telling you toxic positivity. We're not telling you to run away from the truth. Like, none of those things. Like, it's a yes and. Like, this happened. I can own it. And I also did all this work. Ta-da. Like, we're working on these things still. We'll get back to you whenever we're finished. It doesn't have to be that we're ill-prepared or any of those things. And I like how you said, like, you felt way more prepared, felt good in the meeting, felt confident, was able to have a good discussion.
So changing the narrative.
Every narrative that you change ripples out into the people around
and then
you.
in the meeting, too, and it's like, wow, this is good. It's like, oh, all right. In my head, I'm like, no, this sucks. It's like, oh, this is good. This is great. We like this. And also, be careful, because, you know, in business, people be like, yeah. And then next thing you know, they be trying to come up with stuff later, like, well, this and that and that. So I take all of it with a grain of salt. But to the point, also being impeccable with my word means we said we're doing this and we're doing this. And so as long as that's being done, there should not be anything to really worry about. So then my question to the audience, but I'm going to really ask it to you for now, Carlie, I guess, since you're beside me and can actually answer, is, not even just asking the question, but how do you feel about where you are in this agreement of being impeccable with your word?
I think this is the perfect time to revisit it for me, because I feel like I've just really hacked it. Like, I just am so intentional with my words, and I've been there, but like, I'm in a mindset where I'm able to like have that pause in every situation and really choose to love on myself and show up for myself as opposed to beat myself up. And if y'all have been listening, that's something I've been working on for a long time. And so it feels good to know that, you know, I really do create my reality. I laugh because you said it's like we're writing spells, like spelling. If you listen to the language of the things that we're doing, like, our words really are, you know, magic spells. And so as a creator of, you know, my universe around me, it feels so cool to know that I'm creating something so beautiful every day.
Wow, that's awesome. That's good. And I think we probably do a pretty good job of, for me, I know like when I can identify first when my body feels kind of off, right? Sometimes, you know, you say things or you're doing things and you don't catch it. But when I notice I'm feeling off, and then I can be like, all right, what am I thinking? And then I can pay attention to my words. And I do see a big change over time in the fact that and I'm getting a tattoo around this too, but that I can very much say something or think something and then be like, oh, no, not that. And then I'll be like, what's the reframe? And then like I'll say it a little different because I recognize like, well, I don't know, the way I said it was a little limiting. Let me switch it up. So I think I do a pretty good job with that. I already had the like gossiping thing on my habit tracker. So that's something I try to pay attention to, especially when I'm, like I said, with friends and, you know, making sure it's not just like, ha, 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 yeah, and then Carlie said X, Y, Z. It ain't like that. But, yeah, I think I'm on the way, and it's always good to read things like this. And we would, like for all of you, a lot of people have read the 4 Agreements. If you haven't, take a look at the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I want to make sure I said his name correctly, because even for us, these are very short chapters, but just to reread it just gives you you right, let me think about this, you know, for a couple of days. Even if we went into, the rest of this week, starting it out, thinking about this, that's setting us up, you know, for a good week and to think about how you're talking to people and talking to yourself and the like. So with this episode, we hope you got something out of it. Please think about these things. Think about what you're saying. Be impeccable with your word and see how that manifests for you.
Bye, y'all.
Peace out.